Welcome to the one and only Nikita Tszyu.
Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, March 16th, 2026. And I can see there's a few people in the comments already, so welcome to everyone. If you haven't been part of the show before, the way it works is put your comment, question, remark, whatever it might be, in the chat. And as it says there, let's talk some boxing. Also, thank you to everyone that watches on Spotify after the fact. So I'm going to start tonight with just working my way through the comments as they stand on my screen. So these will work themselves out as we go. I'll just double check to see whether all the comments are actually up there. Yeah, okay, looks like it is. Actually, I'll give it a go. I'm trying to go in order for starters, but we'll see how it pans out. But yeah, thanks to everyone for tuning in. As I said, there's a little bit happening on the or over the weekend, wasn't there? We had a little bit of action. Barboza and who did he beat? Who did he beat? I can't even remember now. It's been a long weekend. I'm sure you'll all tell me anyway. Who did he beat? Barboza and I can't remember. Geez, that's how well I'm going to start the episode. There you go. Now I'm going to have to... No, I won't have a look. All right. But a big weekend. See, Nonito Donaire, he got beat. He's out. We're talking also about what else is happening. The Tim Tszyu story from last week. I'm just trying to think of what's happened. I'm just complete blank tonight with Tim having a go at his ex-team about... And I think I saw a comment from you there, BJ, about Tim just having a little bit of a side swipe of his ex-team about some of them convincing him or trying to convince him to retire, others not being at the hospital, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, whatever's on your mind, let's talk about it tonight. We'll start with Cal Jane Hartman. How are you, Cal? What do we got there, mate? Oh, boy. So much going on with Jai Pataya and Zuffa. Do you think Zuffa's good, and do you think they'll be sticking around long-term? It seems a bit dodgy. I think it's a bit early, Cal, to be honest. Do I think they're good? I think the concept's great. I think if you can have an organisation that can have one belt, can have a system in place, a recognised structure that everyone knows how it works and what you need to get up to being a designated challenger, number one challenger, whatever it might be. The problem is, though, Cal, is that unlike the UFC, there is an established format in place, including lots of other promoters. All the elite fighters are all with other promoters except for Jai Pataya. He's the only elite fighter they've got so far. And don't even bring up Conor Benn because he's not elite. So they've got some work to do. As I said, I think the concept is great. But the show so far, look, the fights have been good on the cards. They've been really good. But they're all no names. They're all just, I think I said on one of my videos last week or the week before, a lot of the fights are entertaining, but there wasn't one fight on the Jai Pataya card that went, oh, wow, yes, all right, looking forward to seeing this, because I had no idea who they were. No idea. Whereas normally the big, Riyadh season cards, obviously, the Golden Boys, the Matchrooms, the Queensberries, top ranks even, you all have fights on the cards, PBC, of course. You all have fights on the card that you go, all right, you got the main event, and then there's always 2 or 3 fights underneath where you at least recognise 1 or 2 of the guys. You go, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm going to tune in and watch that fight. Zuffa hasn't had that. And even though they've got 100-odd fighters on their books now, apart from Conor Benn and Jai Pataya, I suppose, do you want to put in Callum Walsh in there? I don't think so. Not a star at all. That's where they're going to fall down for starters, Cal. But I think for long-term sort of projections, I think it'll work. It's just to what extent does it work? And what I mean by that is I think the format will succeed. They'll have their one champion. I think everyone will sort of start to slowly come around as far as what it is. And and maybe accept the champions or whatever it might be. The fighters coming up, there'll be that system in place. But I just don't know how well it will work if the De La Hoyas don't go away and the Hearns don't go away and the PBCs don't go away, and they're going to have too much competition. Because at the moment, too, it's unknown. And until they actually land a really big fish, yes, Jai is a big fish, but he's not a really big fish. Until they land an Usyk or an Inoue or someone like that, maybe not Crawford, Canelo, it happens at some stage, who knows? But they need someone like that. Maybe it's a Virgil Ortiz, not that he's a massive fish, pretty big fish though. They need to get those types of guys on board, or else I just can't see them having the elite fighters there. So, and without the elite fighters there, it doesn't have the recognition, but also the cred, I suppose. So they've got a little bit of work in front of them, Cal. I know I've sort of waffled on about this. Do you think they'll be sticking around long term? Yeah, no, I think they'll stick around long term, Cal. There's too much riding on it. There's a lot of money invested. Dana White doesn't really know how to fail, does he? He's always been a bit of a winner. So I think it will work, but again, it depends on what you define as working. So, all right, we'll go down to Eminem. How are you there, mate? Welcome to the show. What do you got there, mate? Where do I see your comment? All right. You mentioned Fundora versus Thurman in walking boxing this morning, which had me wondering. That fight is under 2 weeks away, and the full card isn't yet released. I thought they had Eminem. I thought every day it seems to be like there seems to be a fight that's added to the card, even though it's only 2 weeks away. It's pretty crazy. Let me just have a quick look and see what's on Block Street. But I did see just the other day that there was a couple of fights that were added, unless they haven't updated Box Rec yet. All right, we'll have a look at that. All right, so where is it? Just waiting for the event to load. There it is. Where is it? All right. So 2 weeks. Oh, yeah, okay. All right, so on Box Week at the moment, apart from the main event, there is Gershon, whoever he is, against Cesar Navarro. Now, let me just have a look. I reckon Kenneth Sims, by the way, Kenneth Sims was the guy that Barboza fought, by the way. So apologies about that. Just sort of dawned on me. All right, so it's not really saying. I'm looking at boxing scene at the moment. I did see there was a fight that was added the other day, but nothing that's really exciting, I wouldn't have thought. It's interesting, isn't it? They haven't updated it. But anyway, yeah, as I said, mate, I reckon there are another 3 or 4 fights I've seen that hasn't been released yet. But anyway, we'll talk about that next week. All right, still with Eminem. Fight week for Terramona Junior, I must throw in there. Just happy he's active and building his record at this stage. Yeah, well, who's he got? Curtis Harper. We'll have a quick look at Curtis, shall we? See what his credentials are. I did have a quick look a while ago when it was first announced a few weeks back or whatever it was, and at least I think he's got a winning record, which is probably something that his other opponents haven't had. Yeah, 19-12, so he's on the border. Looks the part. All right, so he's 19-12, 13 knockouts. Lost his last fight by unanimous decision to Ronnie Hines, who was 15-0. He's fought Richard Torres Jr., not really recognising anyone else. Oh, Effie Ajagba fought him in 2018. Zile Zhang, Chris Ariola. Okay, so he's been there with a few good fighters. Okay, all right. So I think he'll give Terramona rounds, but he has been stopped 6 times out of those 12 defeats. So, yeah, I think he'll at least give him 3 or 4 rounds, hopefully. Now, the rest of that event... Now, what event is it on? There's that many going on at the moment. I lose track. It's on a Matchroom show. Oh, okay, beautiful. So the main event is Carlos Adames and Amo Williams, which is good. So who else is on that card besides Terramona? No one really of note. But either way, it should be a good card. It will be on DAZN, obviously. So make sure you check that one out. All right. Something I saw you one about No Limit there. Yep. No Limit with another announcement of a $70 pay-per-view A-side card. Nonetheless, I'll buy. Nobody does it like No Limit in Australia yet. Well, Eminem's good point, but Eddie Hearn is coming to Australia. I think they do it really well, though, Eminem. I think the shows are really well done. They really are. I think they go over and above with the atmosphere, and I think I've been to a few of their shows, and every single one of them, regardless of who's been on the show, has been really good. Like, the atmosphere in there is always first class. Not so much at home when you've paid $70, I suppose. But look, it's just that the lay of the land that pay-per-views in Australia will cost you $70, and I would say that Matchroom will be the same. And $70, I wouldn't be surprised soon, Eminem, if we suddenly see it creep up to 75 or $80. It's just the way it's going. Everything will be behind a paywall, and it is what it is, isn't it? So we don't like it, but that is just the way it's going to happen. We see it even now. All the good sites you want to watch movies on, they're all behind paywalls, and we have no dramas doing that. So this will be the same. And I wouldn't be surprised soon if pretty much every single sport in the world is behind a paywall, even AFL and NRL and all that at some stage. All right. Big J. How are you, Big J? What do you got there, mate? Can someone please explain how Mike Altamura thinks Tim fighting an Albanian club fighter in preparation for Spence is a good idea? Well, yeah. We could probably ask Mike, I suppose, Big J. Look, the one thing I'll say about Mike is he thinks things through very, very carefully. I think he would have probably spoken to Tim and his team and said, look, do you really think you need a tune-up fight before what could be or will be the biggest fight of his career? Do you really want to do that? And I'm sure Tim and his team would have said, yes, yep, no, it's what we want to do. Tim would want to fight. I'm sure Pedro Diaz would say, look, I'd love a fight, an extra fight with him, maybe get a 10 rounds or 6, 7 rounds, whatever is under his belt, and then we'll be prepared for Errol Spence. Now, maybe that's what the case is. But as I said, Big J, I don't think Mike does things on a whim. He doesn't do things out of inexperience. He's very experienced. He's been around for a long, long time. And I just think that he would have carefully considered this. Look, have a look at the opponent, Big J. He's pretty limited. He's pretty limited. Not a big puncher at all. He had 9 stoppages in 20 wins. It's a it's a very low risk fight, Big J. So I think this will be purely and solely just to have Tim work on a few things with that he's been working with Pedro Diaz on. So that's the only reason why. And I think as well, it will be a confidence builder for Tim. From what I've sort of understood about Tim, he's very much a confidence type of guy, which is why he desperately wanted that fight at the end of 2025. He could have waited, but he wanted to get a win in before the end of the year because he just couldn't stand just sort of going through that whole Christmas, New Year period, being the guy who lost to Fundora and couldn't really walk around with his head high. So that's why I think he wants it. So all that's got to be taken into account when a manager like Mike Altamura sits down and says, all right, what are we going to do? And all those conversations would have been had. And I think the end result would have been, okay, well, let's get him a guy, but he's got to be low risk. And look, his record will be good, so we'll be able to sell it. George Don King Rose will be able to get up there and put on his wig and sprout out that he's undefeated and, you know, he hasn't taken any risks and he's this and he's that. And I'm sure that's what I was going to call him Don King, George Rose would be saying in the lead up to it. But I think we all know what it is. And I've got no problems with it, Big J, because I know what we're getting. And I think you do as well. And I think everyone watching tonight knows that it's a tune-up. It's not like, I mean, George Rose can put his wig on there and stand up there and go on and do his best Don King impersonation, but people know. And if it gets a few sort of casuals to buy the fight, well, that's a little bit of a bonus on top of things. But I think they know that we're all going to buy the fight. They're going to sell it as best they can. But I think people in the know, any boxing fan with half a brain would know that it's a tune-up. And as long as we know that, I haven't got a problem with it. You can either pay the $70 or you don't. It's not like some of these other cards where they've hoodwinked a lot of fans out there by paying the money, and then the real boxing fans, or not real, but real hardcore boxing fans, they're going, well, I told you so. And the ones that aren't really invested are throwing their hands up there saying, what's that? Well, and the biggest example that's probably the Nikita and Michael Zuffa card from last year before they fought each other when they both went 1 round each. I was saying to people, what do you expect? I mean, you could pick it right from the word go. They're only going to be mismatches. And people say, why, oh, why? So in this instance here, Big J, I've got no dramas with it whatsoever, mate. So, all right, we'll keep with you there, Big J. I think your evaluation of Tim's career, however, what disappointing, is premature. He could go on to win multiple belts in the future, so who is that knows what the hype train that the media created was a joke. Well, I don't know what you're trying to say there, Big J. What was my evaluation? I didn't evaluate anything. I sort of, when you say premature, my point is this: what I was talking about in walk-in boxing the other day is I just purely brought up where is Tim at? Where has he been? Where is he at now? And where is he going in the future? I didn't evaluate or put a caveat on his career. I just asked the question: where is he? Or where has he been? I just raised a few questions. I didn't say really anything at all. I just asked the question, where does he sit? And I sort of went through and put up a few points. And you're right, he could go on to win multiple belts. Who knows? And you're right, the hype train, well, was it really a hype train? I mean, they got behind him, that's for sure. But at the time, he was just bowling over everyone left, right, and centre. Now, I know he hadn't really fought an A-grade opponent by then, but still, he wasn't doing anything less than a lot of other world champions do and continuing to knock out sort of B-grade challenges. So, and it wasn't until he stepped up that he got found out. But yeah, I didn't evaluate his career at all, BJ. I just simply raised a question about was he or has he always been just a B-grade fighter that was sort of marketed as an A-grade fighter? And the jury is definitely out as what's going to happen in the future, as you said there. So he could go on and win multiple belts. And I asked a question about whether he's pound for pound top 10 in Australia. And obviously nearly 99% of people said absolutely not. But the potential is there. The potential is there. If he won another world title, he would definitely be in the calculations to be in the top 10 of all time in Australia. But at the moment, no. So I suppose if you want an evaluation of his career and where I see it, I think he's up until obviously the first Fundora fight. I thought it was a very good career up to that point, but I think a few people got carried away with Mendoza. I know he'd beaten Fundora, but it pretty much lost every round up until he knocked Fundora out. Harrison was way over the hill. In a way, he was marketed as like his namesake, Nawa in a way, but wasn't really anywhere near the mark. Dennis Hogan's only a sort of C plus B minus type of fighter. Jeff Horn was done, so I think you could call him a solid champion up to that point, but he still actually didn't win a world title, did he? So I would just say he was a solid fighter up to that point. But it wasn't until he really stepped up that he's been found out. So I think before the Fundora fight, you could say he was probably around the B minus sort of mark, maybe B. And then after that fight, when he stepped up, I think it was pretty clear that he was nowhere near A level. So now going forward, or where he's at the moment, I'd still say he's only a B minus, maybe even a C plus in his career at the moment. But if he goes forward and wins belts and beats Spence and who knows whoever else he might come across, then it would go up to in the B pluses and maybe into the A. So certainly not saying his career is over, but it's now up to him. But I was just, as I said, mate, just simply asking the question about where does everyone else sort of see him at this stage. All right, who we got next? All right, where are you? Is it Shadow Boxer? Where are you, Shadow Boxer? Actually, I think I will start at the top now. I think I'm almost back to being back in order. All right, Drew. I honestly see a similar performance from Tim versus Nurja as his last fight versus Velasquez. For me, it will be just about getting the win, devoid of risk, injury, and defeat, then on to Spence. 100%, Drew. That's all it'll be, mate. I've got no doubt that Tim will win every round, and he might even, or most likely, will probably stop. What's it, Dennis Nurja, or is it? Yeah. So I reckon Pedro Diaz will be saying to him this time, okay, we worked on a few things in the last fight. You got back on the winners list. Now I want to see you step it up. I want to see you stop this guy. I want to put the next phase or the next layer of the cake on, and I want you to stop this guy, and maybe put a few little KPIs in there as well. But either way, I see it as a dominant performance, Drew. And you're right, devoid of risk. Yeah, well, I think that's right. Injuries probably, well, you can't sort of forecast that, can you? And then on to Spence after that. So I think that'll be the aim. I see a very, very similar type of fight, Drew, except this time I think Tim gets the stoppage. But the thing is, I think what the team will be looking at, I know I'll be looking for, is not necessarily what the result is. It's what I'm actually seeing in there and what they're seeing in there with what Tim's doing. Because I was very unconvinced with Tim's fight against Velasquez. Yeah, he pretty much won every round. Well, he did win every round. and he got the win. It was a dominant performance, but I still saw a pretty shaky Tim, a very unsure, uneasy, not overly confident type of fighter. But that's another reason why they wanted that fight. This fight, I think, will be to build, okay, let's get the stoppage and really go into the Spence fight, into the Spence fight with a bit of momentum. I think the Velasquez fight was simply about just getting through and getting the win and just working on a couple of things. I think this one will be all right. This is the fight that really has to take us to that next level, the Spence level. So I think you'll see Tim really try and put the foot down in this fight and get Nurjar, is it Nurjar? Yeah, Dennis Nurjar out of there. And I think he should. But again, it'll be more about how he does it, not necessarily just getting the win. We know he's going to get the win, but it'll just be how he goes about it and whether we can see the changes. I'm looking for head movement. I'm looking for the defense after he punches because he's always been open to counters. I'm looking for the chin sort of floating up in the air to maybe stay compact. I'm looking for the composure to be there and not just losing all composure when he's under pressure. I'm looking after a really solid kill, I suppose, not a reckless one, him being pinpoint because he needs to be that type of fighter to beat Spence. He needs to be composed. Obviously, nice defense, good punches. He has to obviously have a good game plan, but he has to really pick his punches and not just be reckless and a lot of other things as well. So that's what I'll be looking at, Drew. Taking into consideration a fight plan moving forward for Nikita in terms of winning a world championship belt, I find it hard to devise a visible timeline given his reasonably soft resume and ability. Yeah. Look, Drew, I've seen fighters who haven't really been at Nikita's level of ability or his level of what do you call it, of being able to handle himself. I think you know what I'm sort of getting at his level of experience, I suppose, is probably the main thing. I've seen other fighters that haven't been where he is getting world title fights and getting world title shots. So who knows, if it's the right fighter, it might make sense. But I'm with you. I still think Nikita is a fair way away from winning a world championship belt, but you just don't know. I mean, who knows? He could get offered the fight with Josh Kelly. I mean, it's a winnable fight. He's ranked number, 3 or 4, whatever, with the IBF, so it's definitely on the cards. And I would advise him to take it. Now, he might not be ready to actually fight a Josh Kelly or a Xander Zayas, but they're not the most intimidating, scary type of fighters like Bakram Murtazalyov is he? Or, or Fundora or someone like that. So, yeah, I'm with you. I don't, what do you got there? Taking into consideration a fight plan moving forward. Okay, so you find it hard to devise a visible timeline. Yeah, I don't think there is a timeline, Drew. I think what they're going to try and do with him for this year as well is to maybe get another 2 or 3 fights, keep him active, and just try and keep developing him and trying to step him up. I'm not sure he's got that much improvement left in him as far as his overall skill set goes. I mean, I know he can improve his defense and a few other bits and pieces, but overall, the fighter he is at the moment, he's going to be the fighter he is going forward. The only thing that's going to change is his experience levels and being tested in certain ways. Now, he's been hurt in fights. He's been taken into deep waters in fights. He's had easy kills. He's had all sorts of different scenarios in his fights to date. But now it's just about getting the experience. And look, I look back to someone like a Jeff Fennick. He wasn't ready for a world title fight, but got Satoshi Shingaki, who was a pretty soft champion, and got his first belt. I saw Jeff Harding, who took his opportunity. Dennis Andrees was not a soft option, but the opportunity came up. Jeff Harding, who was nowhere near ready for a world title shot, really, when you think back, took it and won the fight. We've talked about Jeff Horn, George Kambosos. Were they really ready to fight a Manny Pacquiao and a TFM Lopez? Probably not. But you just don't know what's going to happen until you take your opportunity, and that's where I think they'll go with Nikita. They'll continue to step him up and get him in line for a fight and just, I suppose, really just try and keep improving on things. But as I said, there's only a certain amount of improvement left in him. And I think they'll just keep winning until hopefully a fight with Zayas or Josh Kelly or one of these type of guys comes up. So are you ever ready? Maybe not. Maybe you are. Who knows? But I just think if the fight comes up, just take it. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me, went down the wrong hole there. All right. All right. Drew. I actually think your appraisal of Tim's career to this point as disappointing was completely correct. Thanks, Drew. Take that, Big J. All right, I think I've got it this time. Sorry about that. He's 0-3 in world title fights in the US. People need to remember the words "at this stage," and and that's what I was trying to say, Drew. At this stage, I certainly wasn't saying, "Well, that's it." Put an exclamation mark at the end of Tim's career, and where this is it. This is all it's going to be. It was pretty much where has he been, where is he now, and where is he going forward. I mean, as I said before, he was, I think, I can't remember what I said, but let's just say he was sort of a B to B plus type of champion. I think now he's probably back to a B minus, C plus, whatever it is. But the potential's always there to go to a B plus, A minus, maybe even an A. So I don't think he'll ever get to an A plus. That's obviously reserved for the Canelos and Crawfords and Inoue's and Usyks and those type of guys. But you just don't know. But you're right, Drew. The facts of the matter are, in world title fights in the US, 0-3. And that's just a fact. So, and I'm hoping he can turn it around, but it is what it is. So everyone that gets a little bit bent out of shape just has to accept the facts that he's 0-3 and hasn't been able to step up to that real upper echelon of 154-pounders. So, all right, Big J. Apparently the plan is for Tim to fight the Albanian, then Spence, then Xander Zayas at year's end. Solid plan if it works. I really think he should go to middleweight as a division is a lot weaker. Your ideas? Yeah, well, the rankings at the moment, there is obviously a big opportunity there, Big J. I'll just bring up the rankings now. Well, obviously, we've got Adames, who's fighting this weekend. Janabek, I think the IBF belt vacant now, and he's ranked at 160, isn't he? He's ranked at with the WBO. I've got a feeling they'll put him back down after this fight, though. So he's ranked number 3 with the WBO at the moment. So, yeah, the IBF belt is vacant. Now, the 2 fighters in line to fight for the vacant belt, I have no idea who these guys are. Let me know if you guys do. Ethan Osa, Oliha, or Olia, against Shaquiel Thompson. I've never heard of either of those guys. Then we go down to number 4, so number 1's not rated. Aaron McKenna. Then we've got Amari Jones, Vincenzo Gualtieri, Callum Walsh. Geez. The IBF's not a bad one to go for. Big J. Problem is, obviously, he's not ranked, and I don't think he's ranked with... I know he's ranked at number 8 at 154. So we've got Lara with the WBA, Adames with the WBC, and Janabek with the WBO. And can you believe the WBO didn't strip Janabek? Failed a drug test. The IBF stripped him, but the WBO didn't. Blows my mind. Because that could have been a belt that he could have put his hand up to fight for. Number 1 is Denzel Bentley. Number 2 is Endri Saavedra. Just another no-limit fighter. So maybe that's why they wanted him rated at number 3. Maybe there was a thought or there was talk at some stage the WBO might strip Janabek Alam Kanuli, and maybe they could have pushed for Saavedra versus Tim Tszyu for the vacant belt. Who knows? But it does make sense, though, BJ. Of course, again, this fight with the Albanians just a warm-up. Spence, I think he's a big chance he can get past Spence. I know the Spence before Crawford will be a different proposition, but the one I think we all saw fight Crawford, geez, he's and 3 years later after the fact, geez, I think he's there for the taking. But if he does get past Spence, then Xander Zayas, another very, very winnable fight. The issue, though, BJ, is will Xander Zayas still be the champion at the end of the year? So he's got Brandon Adams as his number 1 challenger with the WBO. He's got Pavel Susilon with the WBO, who's fighting Victor Nagby. I think next week, or this weekend it might be. It was going to be Camille Balla, but now it's Victor Nagby. Very, very beatable. So the odds are maybe he will be Xander Zayas. I think he beats anyone, really, in the top sort of few of his division. So... Could be the plan, Big J, and if that is the plan, it's a great plan because, as I said, Spence is there for the taking, and Zayas, while he's a solid champion, certainly isn't a great champion. Certainly not the killer or killers that Fondora and Murtazaliov were, mate. So, yeah, I think sometimes you just got to be in the right place at the right time. And if Tim Tszyu happens to be there and he gets past Spence and we get to the end of the year and Zayas or even Josh Kelly are still there as a champion, they could potentially be there for the taking. And Tim and Mike Altamura and Pedro Diaz and everyone have to be rubbing their hands together thinking this could be the outcome if we can get past Spence. Pretty crazy. All right, Drew, I have thought of a scenario where the IBF doesn't strip Opetaia after his last fight, but state in no uncertain terms that they won't sanction his fights under Zuffa moving forward. Hope not, though. Yeah, well, that'd be a perfect world there, Drew. Well, sort of perfect, wouldn't it? I mean, it'd great if they'd let him keep his belt, but not so much if they say we won't sanction it going forward. So at the moment, he still is the champion as far as I know, isn't he? Yeah, still the champion. So you'd think that when was it? It was over a week ago. You would think that he's still the champion. They're not going to strip him now. I wouldn't have thought if they were going to do it. The IBF don't muck around. They would have lopped off his head. They would have stripped him. So the fact were 8 days or 7 days after that fight, I would think the odds are that they'll just quietly let this sort of slip under the radar and they'll let him keep his belt. But maybe, like you said there, maybe they'll say, well, you can keep your belt this time, but in your next fight, if the Zuffa belt is put up as a world title fight, then we're out. I don't know. But are they maybe being a little bit short-sighted there, Drew, the IBF, and maybe the other sanctioning bodies as well, by not sort of playing ball and trying to actually sort of work in with Zuffa? Although it could probably go two ways. One, they could say, all right, well, let's just talk to Dana and let our fighters fight for the belts as well as the Zuffa belts, and let's all try and get along. It's for the betterment of the sport, blah, 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 blah. Or do they say, no, these guys have made no secret that they do not want to have anything to do with us. So let's just, rather than do it down the track and have them maybe do it to us once they get a little bit more powerful, maybe we'll do it now and try and make it as hard as we possibly can for fighters to go over. Because if the IBF and WBA, WBC, WBO all say this is the state of play going forward, if you are part of Zuffa and you fight for the Zuffa belt, you will be stripped automatically. There's no bargaining. There's no sitting down. You will be stripped. It's got to make every single world champion out there think twice about going to Zuffa. And maybe it's happening at the moment anyway, because apart from Jai Pataya, no world champion has gone over to Zuffa yet. So plenty to play out. Me personally, if I was running the sanctioning bodies, I'll be saying this: we've only got one chance at this. We have to put the roadblock in front of them right now, or in 5 and 10 years' time, we might be obsolete. It might be all about Zuffa. There could be more and more money poured in. All it takes sometimes, as they say, is the old snowball thing where it just gathers momentum. They've got Jai, which has just started the little snowball sort of rolling. Then they might have, I'm not just picking someone, Alexander Usyk. He comes on board, starts to get momentum. Boots Ennis says, well, I'm coming over. Ortiz says, I'm coming over. Probably not Boots Ennis, he's with Eddie Hearn, but Virgil Ortiz gets out of the golden boy thing. And then all of a sudden, we go into from Jai to Usyk to Virgil Ortiz, and all of a sudden, I suppose throw Conor Benn in there, and all of a sudden there might be I don't know, an Emmanuel Navarrete or someone that joins, and all of a sudden it gets momentum. More and more people join, more and more money gets poured in, and all of a sudden in 5 or 10 years' time, all the major champions are with Zuffa. And the elite fighters are suddenly saying, well, why do I want to fight for those shitty other 4 belts, and this is the belt that I want? So if I was running those sanctioning bodies, I'd be trying to cut them off at the knees right now and say, if you fight for the Zuffa belt, you will be stripped automatically. And that just makes all the current champions think twice and just stops the momentum or any maybe sign of momentum. It just cuts it off before it even starts. So they've got some big decisions to make. So we will see. And especially when Dana White, right from the word go, said we don't want to work in with the sanctioning bodies. We don't want them. We don't want to work with them. So wouldn't that be enough for the sanctioning bodies to say, well, stick it then. We're going to make life as hard as we can for you guys. None of this, well, yeah, we're willing to work in with them. No, it should be, no, these guys are the enemy. If they had to come in and said, we want to work with the sanctioning bodies straight away, then maybe there might be some hope down the track. But there's not. You know, Dana White, if he had his way and was able to, he would just put all those other 4 out of business just like that and not lose 1 second sleep. So... all right, what do we got here? Drew, if you were in a war with zombies protecting your family and property, which fighter would you want beside you in terms of heart? Holyfield, Hagler, Corrales, or Armstrong? Good question there, Drew. I think it'd be Holyfield for me, mate. That guy just has no quit. I know Hagler was the same, and well, all those other 3, Armstrong and Corrales, were the same as well. Corrales, I think, do you have to have a little bit of an asterisk beside him, Drew? I know the fight with Castillo was one of the classics, but before that, he did spit his mouthpiece out twice to get himself a break. Would Evander Holyfield, Marvin Hagler, or Henry Armstrong do that? I think not. Never, ever, ever would they spit out their mouth guard on purpose, which is what I reckon Corrales did, or it was knocked out, whatever it was. So a little bit of an asterisk. So I'm going to put a line through Corrales straight away. Hey, I love the guy. Rest in peace, all the rest of it. What he did against Castillo was one of the classic fights of all times, but that would rule him out for me. Armstrong, well, different error, I suppose. Hagler, just a chin of iron. But for me, as far as heart goes, Evander Holyfield every day of the week, Drew. Right beside me. And I don't think he'd leave your side, would he, Evander Holyfield? So that's my choice. Shadow Boxer purchased a meet and greet off Taszyu for the Bud Crawford night. Money well spent for a boxing tragic like myself. Yeah. Great call there, Shadow Boxer. It'll be a great night. I mean, everyone that went to the last event with Bud Crawford said it was great. I didn't go. It's really not my thing. I'm not really into the whole meet and greet. So I did it once with Tyson, but that was just a one-off. We're talking Mike Tyson. And with all due respect to Bud Crawford, he's not Mike Tyson as far as his profile goes. And this is about 13 or 14 years ago that I met him. And I love Bud Crawford, but again, it's not my thing to sit in a corporate environment and all the rest of it, but I know it is for a lot of people, and mate, make the most of it. That's awesome. Taszyu, as I said, the last event had so many people talking positively about it, and great opportunity to meet the man himself, Shadow Boxer. So, mate, have a good night. I think if you go to Tazzie's Instagram page or his Facebook page, I think it is, you'll be able to get tickets off there has all the information on there, so support it. So I think Taszyu had a fight night over the weekend as well that looked like it went pretty well for him. So it's 2 weeks away for the Bud Crawford night, so get your tickets now and support the event so that Taszyu brings over even more people. I think he's talking about maybe Oscar De La Hoya at one stage, which how good would that be? There is one I know he's got confirmed for later in the year, which should be a big one as well. I won't announce it here. You'll hate me doing that. But, yeah, I think it'll be a little bit different than what like a Bud Crawford one is. But all the same, it should be an excellent night if you're a real fight fan as well. So, all right. William G. If he loses that fight, then he automatically loses the IBF crown as well. He couldn't hang on. Which one? Hang on. I've jumped ahead. Sorry. I think Jai Pataya should be able to keep his IBF title, but every second fight he has to be an IBF mandatory. Well, that's not a bad way to do it, William. Second optional fight, the Zuffa, whatever, doesn't have to be recognised by the IBF. Yeah, well, that's not a bad way to do it, William. So I think what you're saying there is, hang on, you've got another part to that comment. If he loses that fight, then he automatically loses the IBF crown as well. He could negotiate with the IBF to pay fees for each fight. That would suit Jai and appease the IBF. Good way of looking at it, William. So what you're saying is he wouldn't have voluntaries anymore. So every second fight, because the way it works at the moment, I'm sure you all know, you have your mandatories. So you got to fight your number one challenger. Then you can have a voluntary, so you can fight anyone in the top 15. I think in this instance, what you're saying there is they've got to fight the number one challenger. The next fight can be a Zuffa title defense, and it can be counted sort of as a voluntary defense. So as long as every second fight is a mandatory, then he keeps his belt. And you're right, he could pay a small fee. The WBC have no dramas charging the champions for fighting for other belts, so maybe it'd be a small fee. So I've got a feeling, I'm not sure, that they don't pay sanctioning fees for Zuffa, and why would they? It's not really a third party, is it? Zuffa is one big organisation, so you just fight for the belt. When the sanctioning bodies come in, of course, they are the third party that you have to pay. So technically, it wouldn't probably cost him any more if he had to pay IBF sanction fees every single fight normally. So he could do that, yeah. Even though the IBF belt might not be on the line when he fights for the Zuffa belt, he could still pay a fee to the IBF, and everyone's happy because let's face it, it's all about the money, isn't it? I think the last ones to sort of do that, though, William, would be the IBF. They're pretty strict in what they do, but it's a great idea, mate. Very, very good idea. All right, Tony. Oscar's autopsy on the Jai Pataya Zuffa and the belt debacle on Clapback Thursday was sensational, funny, and oh so true. Yeah, he had a bit of a crack, didn't he, Tony? And look, I'm probably more Oscar, Eddie, the traditional boxing parties, I suppose. So the top ranks and all that sort of stuff. I'm more their way than the Zuffa side, but I'm sort of just slightly to that side. I'm not really 100% over, but I'm more to that side, if that makes sense. More on that side of the fence. But I like what sort of Zuffa's doing. But Oscar really hit him right between the eyes as far as facts goes. And I was really impressed with the way he spoke. Even it's funny lately because he hasn't really been on the, the funny type of platform, has he? He's been pretty, he's still lighthearted about it, but he's been pretty much more matter of fact. And I think he has to be with the Virgil Ortiz situation and the Zuffa thing as well. So, but I really liked the way he spoke as well, Tony. I thought he made some really good points. Couldn't resist the crack at Uncle Fester, of course, Dana White. But he's right. I mean, Jai Pattaya, in his opinions, had some really bad advice, and he's going to pay for it. So, and what does Oscar say? It's not hate if you speak the facts. So there you go. So check out Oscar's clapback Thursday from last week. All right. There is Kookaburra Kit Kat. Loving the names there. All right. Tom's dad, Naz. How are you there, Naz? Head splitter to fight for Australian 168-pound title in 6 weeks on Wildfighter card, apparently. Boxing misses him. Is he allowed to do that, Naz? I did have someone send that to me that he was going to... Actually, it might have been on his Instagram or something like that. He mentioned it. So who is the 168-pound champion? Is that Max McIntyre? I'm not sure. Either way, we do miss him there, Naz, and I miss him. I think he's great for boxing. I'm not sure the IBC would probably allow that, though, would they? Seeing as though he's signed a 6-fight deal or, excuse me, whatever it is. Where is it? The ratings. All right, so at the moment at 168. Didn't know Wildfighter had a card coming up, actually. 168, the champion is Donald Jones. Well, Donald Jones, he's actually a Wildfighter fighter, which makes sense. Max McIntyre is #1 challenger. Throw in Jack Bowen, Dylan Biggs. Who else is there? Yeah, so it's a good division. Yeah, no, it's not a bad division. So will they sanction? I suppose they would. Even though he's not ranked. Although he's not ranked at 175 pounds either. Yeah, well, as I said there, Naz, Donald Jones is a Wildfighter fighter, and he is the champion. So it might make sense. That'd be a really good fight. Donald Jones was a really good amateur. I remember seeing him probably 10 or 12 years ago, and yeah, good fighter. Only a country boy. I think he was from somewhere down near, I thought it was near Warrnambool, something like that. But yeah, good fighter. So yeah, that would be a good fight if that is the case, Naz, for sure. Yeah, and head splitter, come back to boxing. We need you. We really do. All right, Naz. Poor old Big J got called out by Aussie promoter and Desley herself on Insta for claiming Desley has an OnlyFans. Any publicity good though, Big J? I did see that. I love the Aussie promoter. I know he probably rubs up a few people the wrong way, but I think he's great on Instagram. Probably I wouldn't follow the Aussie promoter if you're a little bit sensitive, if you've got some snowflake tendencies, or you like a safe corner every now and then, because he's very much right-leaning, and I love what he does. And he has all sorts of different things. I've got to quickly scroll past the big booty ones there, Naz, because I might have the wife sitting next to me, so I've got to scroll past them quick. But no, I really like his all sorts of stuff. Obviously, mainly the boxing stuff, but he puts some pretty funny stuff up there. But sometimes you put on 20 or 30 things a day. I don't know, has he got a job? He just sits there and just posts stuff all day, the Aussie promoter. But yeah, I did see that with Big J. I think he was calling out the fight with Big J and Jay McAllister, wasn't he? But I don't know about Desley having an Insta account. I think it was more, and Big J probably already commented on this further down the track there, but I think it was to do when she did the lingerie shoot with the other girl, with Belly or whatever her name is. Did a bit of a lingerie thing with that. And look, you got to do what you got to do. I understand they're not that well paid, the girl, so I get it. I think enough of Desley. I would hope she wouldn't do it, because I think she's a real classy lady, and she can fight, obviously. But you got to do what you got to do to put food on the table. So I'm certainly not going to judge anyone. But I know Big J had a bit of a problem with it, didn't you, mate? But I don't know about this whole OnlyFans thing. I've never seen it or been on it, but by all account, the girls that are on it make a shitload of money, so good on them. All right, Naz. Sorry, there's Polly the Farmer. How are you there, mate? Naz, how far off your Oz pound for pound top 10 is John Manu? Oh, okay, yeah. So you would have seen this morning my top 10 pound for pound Aussies. I'll just go back over them. So I had Liam Wilson at number 10. I had Nikita Tszyu at number 9. I had Justice Hoodie at number 8. George Kambosos Jr. at 7. Andrew Maloney at 6. Sam Goodman at 5. Jason Maloney at 4. Tim Tszyu at 3. Liam Paro, sorry, did I say 3? Tim Tszyu at 3. Liam Paro at 2. And Jai Patara at 1. I would think that someone like Matteo Tapia would be in front of him there. Naz. He's a good fighter, John Manu. I would probably, without having them all up there, I don't know. I've got the rankings up there, haven't I? But no, I'd have him at probably 12 or 13, Naz. And on the way up, a very, very good fighter, John. But he just needs to have a good win. He hasn't really had I won't call it a legacy win, but a good, solid, maybe he has to get to world class and have some sort of win there, mate. So, he's probably 12 or 13 for me. All right. Naz, I personally love the Matchroom card. Probably unpopular, but I'm stoked for Sky to get her first headliner. Hunt versus Bala, best fight. Hope I can afford to go. Yeah, well, it's in Melbourne. Should be a great event. Now, I think the event is up on BoxRec, but I think it's great too. Naz, it's in conjunction with Sam Labruna, who has put on. I think his last show was a ripper. That was that Camille Bella and the Russian and Jazzy Parr, and was it Mariah Turner? No, Maya Solomon, wasn't it? And Mariah Turner was on there, and she beat what was her name? Cutting, Stephanie Cutting. All right, so it's just loading here. All right, while that's loading, we'll move on. But yeah, really good card there, Naz. And look, it's going to be an interesting one for Sky Nicholson. I'm sure I like the fact that they haven't sort of just put her out there on her own with a pretty average undercard. They've really stacked the card, and having her as the main event, I think it's great. This is not loading, by the way. It's going round and round in circles. But anyway, yeah, no, I like it. The Hunt versus Bala fight. No, it's not Hunt. It's Hunt is fighting Hussein, isn't he? Benjamin Hussein. Bala is fighting Wiley, Jake Wiley. So yeah, so it's Sky and Mariah Turner as the main event, which will be a really good fight in itself. Andrew Hunt and Benjamin Hussein, which will be a ripper, and then Ibrahim Bala and Jake Wiley, which will be a ripper as well. So yeah, it will be a really good night, mate. I might actually consider going myself. Actually, it's in Melbourne, isn't it? So that's on April the 29th. All right, so the card is Sky, Maria Turner. Is it Maria, whatever. Ibi and Jake, Andrew Hunt, Benjamin Hussein, Jesse Bolt, Faviisa Osako, Chloe Chaos is on there. Yeah, so a really good card. Terramona's on there as well, of course. So so don't know who he's fighting yet, but yeah, great card. Will be on DAZN, and of course, if you're in Melbourne, get along because it's going to be a ripper. Tony, I'm a big John the Beast Manu fan. I really rate him. Yeah, I do too, Tony. I promoted John a couple of times back in the day. Really good fighter, nice guy. And he can fight. So I hope, I'm not sure whether has he got I suppose, is it? I was going to say, has he got a promoter behind him? What's probably Sam Labruna, isn't it? I think, is it? I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, good fighter. Let's hope he gets some opportunities going forward. What's that, Shadowbox? And Manu lives in the same town as me. Where does he live? I thought he was in Melbourne. Ado, did you see Donaire got KO'd last night in Japan? I wonder if that spells the end for him now. I doubt it. Yeah, I just saw the highlights, Ado. Oh, look, geez, what is he, about 45 or something now? He's definitely getting on, isn't he? Yeah, let's hope it's the end of him, mate. What was his name? Riku someone? Yeah. But, yeah, I just saw the highlights, mate. But it was a big weekend for fights, wasn't it? But, yeah, let's hope it's the end for him now, mate. I think he's had enough. Really nice guy too, Nonino Donaire. I've met him a couple of times and always up for a chat. Really good guy. What's that, Naz? I wish I knew how to do the highlighted name in replies like Oh, sorry, hang on. I don't know what's going on. I'll move on. Sorry, that's an in-house stroke between you two. There's already too many belts. I just can't see Zuffa working and imagine coming into the industry saying you're going to take over and then basically expecting help. Yeah, well, that's a good point there, mate. You're right. Yeah, you come in there and you say, well, yes, it's true. We're not going to work with any other sanctioning bodies. They're all a joke. All these sanctioning bodies are a joke. And I think he said, did you see that? The WBC guys having a laugh about him, about Mauricio Suleiman, picking off all the promoters and having a go at them. So he's on his own. He's not going to get any help from anybody. And look, I think Dana White, to be fair, would have looked at this situation and went, well, if I'm going to do this, if I just work in with everyone else, if I just become just another, as Chopper Reed would say, another bear bum in the shower, if I just do that, I'm just going to be one of them. So why even bother? You know, he's got the probably billion-dollar organization with the UFC, doing great things. I think in his mind, if he worked in with the promoters and the sanctioning bodies, well, he just becomes part of the game. And that's not what he wants. So I think he would have thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it properly. And it's either my way, it's either going to work my way, or it's not going to work, and I'll walk away. That's the way I think he would look at it. But then don't sort of cry foul when the IBF doesn't sanction Jai's fight. That's the only thing I don't like. I think I would have thought, and we don't know the conversations that went on behind closed doors with Dana and Jai, but if I was Dana, I would probably expect him to sort of say to Jai, well, mate, you knew what you're getting in for, unless the promise was made, of course, that it would be for the belt. But I think he'd be saying, the Dana White I think we've all seen will be saying to Jai, hey, mate, just suck it up, mate. We move on, okay? You mightn't get what you want, but such is life, okay? You're going to have the Zuffa belt. We're going to be bigger than anything. We just have to work together and stop crying over the IBF and let's just go forward. That's what I reckon Dana White would say. Although, so far, as I said before, it doesn't look like he's been stripped yet. But I'm not sure he's been saying he's expecting help there, mate. But I think, yeah, he's now like, oh, hang on, why won't the IBF sanction our belt? And eventually it'll be, oh, why won't he let his fighter fight our fighter? That's what will come eventually. And that's when I think the other people, the sanctioning bodies, promoters, whatever it might be, will say, hey, mate, you brought this upon yourself. But yeah, I don't think Dana White will be expecting too much there, mate. I think he knows what he's doing. And I think he'd rather, with the old adage, isn't he'd rather die on his feet than live on his knees. So I think that's the approach he'll take. Naz, when will the non-PBC fighter get a shot at Fundora? No doubt Charlo next. Yeah, it could be that way, mate. Yep. Well, the PBC, when you think about it, are sort of doing what Zuffa's doing, aren't they? Except they've got established fighters with their belts already. They sort of keep it in-house. And they said the same thing, didn't they? I'm pretty sure at one stage the PBC was going to have their own belt. They just ran out of money. They ran out of, I suppose, clout. But Dana White with Zuffa, I think, is a totally different ballgame because the PBC, they might have Al Heyman, a few other, the backing of Showtime and all that sort of stuff. And obviously that fell over. But Dana White, obviously he's Dana White. He's got the reputation of the UFC behind him, but also all the money from the Saudis. So they're not going anywhere. PBC just ran out of money in the end. I know they're still hanging in there, but Zuffa's not running out any money anytime soon. So I think they'll be around a lot longer. And when will the non-PBC fighter get a shot at Fundora? Yeah, who knows, Naz? As I said, they try and sort of keep it in-house, don't they? What do you got there, Tony? Off topic. A little bird whispered to me today that certain eyes are looking at grading Phillip Island to grade 1 to host an F1 round, seeing both Middle East rounds are cancelled due to the Iran conflict. There you go, Tony. Yeah, I don't follow F1, but yeah, it's a massive shame of what happened to Phillip Island, wasn't it, with the races down there. From what I sort of seen and heard, the Victorian government didn't fight for it at all. They just sort of let it go. They gave 580 million or whatever it is away to Scotland to put the Commonwealth Games on over there. And then they just let South Australia take the Phillip Island race, even though it's been there for, 30 or 40 years. So don't get me started on the government there, Tony. But yeah, that would be great if that was the case. I would have thought, though, wouldn't Melbourne, the city, host the F1 again, seeing that it's already going to be set up? Couldn't they sort of do one race and then the following weekend do another race? Just, I know it's not ideal, but to do it while it's already there. I mean, we saw all sorts of things go on during COVID, with different sports being played at different venues and double headers and all this sort of stuff. Maybe they could do that and have a race in Melbourne and the following week do another one in Melbourne and just keep everything there for another week and cash in again. I don't know, but it does make sense there, Tony. I'm not so sure the Victorian government would want to spend a heap of money to upgrade it just for one F1 round though, mate. But you never know. You never know. All right, Naz, would be so much better if Ortiz got Fundora and Boots got... would be so much better if Ortiz got Fundora and Boots got Zayos, and then they fight with belts on the line. Yep, well, it could be the case, Naz, because as it stands at the moment, we've got no fight with Ortiz and Boots, so they may as well try and fight for other titles. I think the Ortiz and Fundora fight makes a hell of a lot of sense. I mean, when's Fundora and Thurman fighting? 2 weeks' time? So that makes a lot of sense. That Ortiz might get a quick tune-up in, and then maybe Ortiz and Fundora fight at the end of the year. Boots has another warm-up fight, fights Zayas at the end of the year, and then maybe in April or May or something of 2027, Ortiz and... I almost called him Oots there. Ortiz and Boots get it on in the first half of 2027. So might be a man by the name of Tim Tszyu might throw a spanner in the works there. Naz, you never know. And no, I'm not saying that Tim beats Ortiz or Boots. I'm just saying that he could get Zayos or Josh Kelly before those guys do. All right. Okay, where are we? You guys talking about how to highlight comments? Oh, hang on, I think I've got a super chat, haven't I? Where are we? Andy, how are you there, mate? $20. Thank you very much, mate. Very much appreciated. Zuffa likely to blame regarding IBF debacle with Jai, regardless of what BS Dana says. Question is Jai now stuck in a UFC never-ending contract unless he loses? Yeah, sub, share, and smash the like. Thanks very much, Andy. Yes, I think... who's to blame? Who's to blame? If I'm... Look, of course, I don't know the exact conversation that we had there, Andy, but if I had to look at it from afar, and I don't like saying this, I would think that Tasman fighters are to blame. I mean, Jai, Mick, whoever's involved in Tasman fighters are to blame, because I've got a feeling that while Dana might have said in the meetings that, yes, we're open to working with the IBF, whatever it took to maybe get Jai on board, I don't think he would have ever said, Jai, you will be fighting for your belt. Don't worry about it, because we will work with the sanctioning bodies. So come on over and we'll make it work. I don't think he would have come out and said that. He might have alluded to that, but at the end of the day, Jai and Mick and Tasman fighters, they took the opportunity to roll the dice. And in this case, well, hopefully it's going to work out for them, but it didn't look like that last week, did it? But if it does come to pass that he is stripped and can't fight for other sanctioning bodies' belts, or the other sanctioning bodies won't sanction any fights with Jai, we'd have to say it's Tasman fighters' fault, Andy. It's a little bit of buyer beware. And again, I hate saying that because I've got so much respect for Jai and Mick and everyone at Tasman Fighters, but at the end of the day, they made the call. They had the meeting with Dana. Doesn't look like they had a meeting with the IBF, because if that had been the case, then I'm sure it would have come out since then that, well, hang on, the IBF told us it'd be all okay. Now they're saying no. Well, so they'd be putting it all on the IBF. But unless that's going on behind closed doors, I don't know. And again, none of us know. But if it came down that Jai and Tasman Fighters decided to leave, well, not leave, but they moved over to Zuffa and rolled the dice on the IBF situation, and it hasn't come off, or isn't it on them? Don't know. Well, it's obviously not in a contract that Zuffa will work with the sanctioning bodies, or else it wouldn't have been an issue, would it? So anyway, look, there's lots of things happening, but I think everyone's maybe a little bit to blame in certain ways. Maybe Dana did hint or did say that it would all be okay and they'd work with them. Maybe the IBF even verbally had said, yep, no, it's all right, we'll work with Zuffa. Could have been a lot of different reasons, but I think there's a lot of people to blame there, Andy, I would think. All right, what have we got there? I think I've lost my spot there. All right. Polly, I think Zuffa is very dependent on the Saudi government. If they decide they've had enough and have something else for Turkey to work on, it's not like he's going to have a choice. The Saudis aren't kind. Yeah, it's a good point there, Polly. And look, it is pretty much a house of cards when you think about it, isn't it? because the Saudis have come in, they've bankrolled the whole thing, which is why they've been able to put all this money out to Conor Ben and obviously Jai, and been able to get the whole thing sort of going. Now, the Saudis, look, let's just say in 2 years' time, the Zuffa thing, struggling to get fighters over, struggling to get these big events off the ground. They might have a sprinkling of champions, but not what they sort of promised they'd have. The Saudis might say, you know what? Yeah, no, this is not going to work. We're going to pull the funding. And Dana can then either do it himself. He can fund it himself, which I'm not sure he'd be able to, especially with what's going on with the UFC. A lot of time, effort, money invested in that. Then the rug might be pulled out. So it is a house of cards when you think about it, Polly. And I'm surprised that Oscar hasn't really made more of a point of that by saying, well, to laugh it off and say, well, if that rug gets pulled, we'll see how bold you are then, Dana, at your press conferences. So, and the whole Saudi thing in general, I mean, that could end any time. And we've talked about it before. Turki Al-Sheikh, I mean, he looks like the saviour. And in boxing, I was going to say it's his new sort of shiny toy, but he's been around a few years now, obviously, so it's not so much shiny anymore, but he's still invested in it. But at what point, let's say the Zuffa thing starts to sort of fade. Let's say he can't land the big fights. Fighters are resisting his advances to come over to the Riyadh season. Then maybe the Saudi government say, all right, well, we're going to pull the funding, because it's not Turki Al-Sheikh's money, it's the Saudi government's money. This is what I've always said about the Saudis. Everyone says about how great they are and what they're doing for boxing. Well, we'll see how great they are if they get sick of it and they pull the rug out from Saudi and he's got to fund it himself, and all of a sudden he goes on to something else or loses interest, whatever it might be. So that's why I think it's very, very important that the Oscar De La Hoyas and Eddie Hearns and Frank Warrens and Top Ranks and PBCs hang in there as long as they can, because if they fall to the wayside and it's just the Saudis sort of left over and Zuffa and whatever, and then the Saudis pull out, boxing's going to be in a world of hurt. There's going to be no big promoters, no money, no broadcast deals, no nothing. So I know there's always someone that comes along, but I think, as I said, those guys have to hang in there as long as they can. Ado, Boots fought a few seconds in a year against a nobody. Why is he so inactive for? Well, I don't know, Ado. It's up to Eddie Hearn, isn't it? His last opponent though, who did he fight? I won't look him up now, but yeah, it wasn't Lubin, that was Ortiz, wasn't it? Who did he fight? No, I won't look it up. Now I've got to look it up. Sorry, sorry about that. Maybe mine up there. Jaron Ennis. All right, so he last fought. So he's 35-0, 31 knockouts. Last fought in October against Usama Lima. That's right. And went one round. What was the Lubin Ortiz fight? I think that went 3 rounds, did it? 2 or 3 rounds. So, well, why is he such a top-level fighter? I mean, just ability-wise, Ada. I know it's probably easy to look at him and criticise him like that. You make a good point. 35-0, 31 knockouts, as I said. But he's only a sprinkling of half-decent opponents. But, look, I think we can all see the potential. It's the way he goes about winning the fights. I think he's got massive upside, Boots Ennis, but he needs a Virgil Ortiz type of fight. And if it's not Virgil Ortiz, I mean, geez, why couldn't he fight a Josh Kelly? I know Eddie Hearn's spoken about it. Why couldn't it be a Josh Kelly, get himself an IBF belt? I mean, he could then fight a Murtazalia. What a fight that would be. He could fight, a unification fight with Zayos as well, or Fundora. I mean, lots of fights for him. I mean, so many great fights to be made at 154, but I think it's more potential, Ado, rather than actual resume at this stage. All right, Mutzi, the 47-kilogram wrecking ball, Oscar Colasso, was impressive again. The good guys at low weight don't get enough recognition, in my opinion. Yeah, no, you're 100% right, Mutzi. It was very, very impressive, that's for sure. I did comment on my pound-for-pound sort of list this morning that he just missed out, but I wouldn't argue if someone had him in the top 10. He's a little gun, isn't he? The problem is, you're right, the fighters in the lower weight divisions, they just don't get the recognition that, the heavier ones do. I mean, really, when you think about it, it sort of stops at about bantamweight, and even then it depends who the champion is at bantamweight. I mean, in a way, has brought a lot of attention to the lighter weights. I remember back in the day, Michael Carbajal and Humberto Gonzalez and those types of guys brought a lot of attention as well. Unfortunately, Oscar Colasso doesn't have a Carbajal or an Inoue or a Humberto Gonzalez to really play his, zing to the zang, I suppose. He hasn't really got a lot of challenges there, but a great little fighter. And yeah, it's just a shame that he doesn't get the recognition he deserves, mate. I think he is ranked in the top 10 pound for pound with a ring, though, I think, from memory. All right, Big J, we can definitely agree if Spence beats him, he's done. This is Tim Tszyu. Yeah, 100% Big J. Look, I don't know. I'm sort of hoping I'm wrong. I think, and this is what I said before about really being interested in what Tim shows in his next fight, because I didn't see enough in the last fight to convince me that he's anywhere near the fighter that he was before the first Fundora fight. And you are right there. If he gets beaten this one, it's 100% over. But yeah, I'm hoping we see something, Big J, because the Tim Tszyu we saw in that last fight against Velasquez is not beating Spence or anyone else, I don't think, at the higher level. So, which I've got a feeling is why they desperately want to have this next fight. All right, Ado. Pro Box card on Saturday. Easily the best card of the weekend. I missed that, Ado. I forgot it was bloody on. Never fails to deliver as far as action goes. Potential fight of the year main event between Lopez and Galejos. Well worth a watch. I'll look it up, Ado. There was so much going on, and I said in my video this morning that they weren't big name cards, but there was a lot of them. We had Kenneth tongue twister, Kenneth Sims, and Barboza. Of course, we saw Viviana Ruiz and Fundora on the undercard. We had the fight in England with Dickens and Kasashe. Was a really good fight as well, plus that one as well. So, yeah, there's been a lot going on, mate, but I'll have to look at it. So the Pro Box concept, I don't think gets enough sort of attention either. I think the Pro Box cards are better than the Zuffa cards, and the Zuffa cards are better than a lot of the other undercards or other sort of second level type of cards we get. So I'd like to see some of the networks put a little bit more money into fight cards like this, because they're the ones I think are gonna build the sport. I know Pro Box is owned by the same guy. They've obviously got the YouTube page as well, but haven't they got a magazine or something, a TV show, whatever it might be. But anyway, the guy that owns it is obviously got the whole media arm as well as the promotional arm as well. All right, Dan. What is it? Dan. I'll just call you Dan. I can't pronounce that. Dan the Tire, is it? What's your thoughts about Jai Patai being a threat at heavyweight in the future? Is he too small, or could he outbox those bigger guys like Usyk has done? Could he be competitive against Usyk? Well, time will tell there, Dan. I think so. I really like Jai in that at heavyweight. I think he's fast with his feet, fast with his hands. He's got okay power. Not one punch power, but okay power. And I think at heavyweight, okay, he's certainly not going to be a big puncher at heavyweight either, but I think he's a bigger puncher than Usyk, and Usyk's done just fine. And I think the fact that Jai, I was going to say similar type of style as Usyk, obviously the southpaw stance, likes to be in and out, give the opponents a lot of lateral movement, likes to attack, then defend and move and everything else. A little bit of everything. So I think that's what will hold him in good stead. You watch Usyk, he sort of fights from a distance, sort of picks them off, and then picks his time to really pick the pace up when the heavier guys usually starting to sort of wind down a bit. He'll really pick the pace up, and that's where I reckon Jai will be successful as well. I think he'll box from a distance, and then when the sting's gone out of the fight and the big guys start to wind down, I think someone like Jai could really pick it up like an Usyk and really make it hard on the other heavyweights. I don't think we'd see a lot of stoppages from Jai at heavyweight, probably like Usyk as well, but although he has stopped Dubois twice, hasn't he? But I can see a lot of similarities between them, Dan, and I think Jai, just like Usyk, could be a very, very good heavyweight, and no reason, once Usyk's gone, why he couldn't win a version of the belts as well. And could he be competitive against Usyk? Yeah, 100%. I don't think he beats Usyk. I think Usyk would win the fight, but definitely he would be competitive for sure. Yeah, Harry, Dennis Andrews was as tough as they come. Yeah, when he fought Jeff Harding in Melbourne there, Harry, I was at that fight. I was only I might have been 16 or 17 or whatever. We sort of sat there, and when he had knocked Jeff Harding out, and I think it was the 7th round, he stopped him or knocked him out, and he got out of the ring and he walked past us. I mean, the guy literally looked like he was carved out of concrete. Fair income. He did not have 1 ounce of fat on him, and he was just muscle. So I sort of felt sorry for Jeff Harding that night, because he just literally made like a brick. Fair income, but he was as tough as they come. And I think the anniversary of his fight with Thomas Hearns might have been last week, and you remember that fight. He got dropped probably 3 or 4 times, but kept getting up and got stopped in the 10th round. But yeah, he was as tough as nails. Naz, will Usyk's legacy be tarnished if he ends? What's that? Will Usyk's legacy be tarnished if he ends on Spider Rico Dubois, who he's beaten twice, and Tyson Fury, who's beaten twice? Yeah, in my opinion, yes. I don't get the argument that the champ can have a gimme. Well, that's why they invent voluntaries there, Naz. But the whole stipulation of having a voluntary is it's against the boxer. So I don't get or agree with this fight. And like you said there, this is not a gimme. This is a gimmick, I suppose you'd say. But yes, Usyk has earned a voluntary sort of pick 'em sort of fight against another boxer, but he certainly hasn't earned this. No one has. And look, he can fight Spider Rico, as you say there, but he should give up the belts. It's as simple as that. I love Alexander Usyk, but this fight should not be allowed. Well, it should be allowed, but he should have to give up his belts. If you want to have a gimme, then fight a top 15 challenger. Whoever you want to pick, go for it. That's your gimme. Not fighting a guy that's, and regardless of his standing as a kickboxer, it means shit in the world of boxing. He's had 1 boxing fight 12 years ago, so it doesn't count. So does his legacy tarnish? I don't think so, Naz. I think people will be probably disappointed in his career if he ends on Spider Rico, Dubois, and Fury, especially Dubois. I mean, I would think that if Dubois beats Wardley, that he would be struck off the list. I know Usyk would want to unify the belts, but that'd be such a tough sell. How do you sell Usyk and Dubois 3 when Dubois has been stopped twice? Fury Usyk 3 is going to be a hard enough sell, let alone Dubois and Usyk. So, well, they're going to throw Anthony Joshua in there as well. May as well fight him a 3rd time as well. So, again, I said this on one of my videos the other day. I would have had not the Spider Rico fight. I would have had this fight should have been Fabio Wardley coming up. It should have been Wardley, 100%. Then it could have been maybe a Moses Otama. No, sorry, I take that back. Probably an Ajit Kabayel, I think, has probably earned a crack. Then it would be a Moses Otama to finish off. A real super fight. You know, the young sort of heir apparent coming up against the old champion. That would be a really good way to go out. So that's what I would have had. Would have had those 3 fights. These just aren't very attractive at all. The Spider Rico fight especially, no way. And as I said, Dubois, really? Are we going to stop him for a 3rd time? It wasn't like the last one either was competitive. The first one had the controversy and all that sort of stuff. The second one was just easy work for Usyk. So how do you justify that apart from the belt, which is the only way it would make sense? Tyson Fury, well, probably depends on how Tyson Fury looks in his next fight as well. That will sell, especially if they do it in England. But I'm certainly not, crossing the fingers that they all get through unscathed, and it's Fury Usyk 3, mate. So yeah, as I said, I would have definitely had Wardley, Kabayel, and then Otama. Maybe even a Jai Pattaya in there as well, if you wanted to throw him in there. So depends on how when he comes up as well. Harry, can you see Liam Wilson getting another title shot this year? Yeah, I can, Harry. I can. He's ranked at the moment at 130. He is the number 2 challenger in the WBO. So Navarrete will fight Suarez at some stage this year. Probably I was going to say, you said this year, didn't you? Maybe not, because, although what is it? It's only March. You never know. But Navarrete will fight Suarez probably July, August, so that might put it into doubt for this year. Where is he ranked with the other guys? I'm not sure. So he's ranked number 10 with the IBF, and Navarrete's got that belt as well. I don't think he's ranked with the WBA, and he's not ranked with the WBC. So it's really to Manuel Navarrete or nobody, really. So The other caveat could be if Charlie Suarez upsets Navarrete, then Liam Wilson would go into mandatory position. Well, he will go into mandatory anyway after Suarez and Navarrete fight. So, but if Suarez happens to win, then you would think that Liam Wilson will be next. But will it be this year? Maybe not. Maybe early next year. So he's just going to have to keep busy there, Harry. And he has done that so far. But if the WBO orders Suarez and Navarrete, you would think that it'll be early next year. But I think within the next 12 months, definitely there, Harry, for sure. Naz, imagine the Brisbane Lions of 2002 said we don't want to play Collingwood, just give us North Melbourne. Yeah, good point there, Naz. Yeah, boxing, it's a funny game sometimes, isn't it? Ado, what do you make of Sam Goodman's upcoming opponent? Looks like a challenge on paper. Yes, it does. We'll have a quick look at that card there, mate. And we'll see who's on there. I haven't had a chance to look at him on YouTube yet, Ado, but I have had a good look at his record. All right, so he's fighting Rodrigo Ruiz, 23-1 with 17 knockouts. All right, so the one loss, if this will load. Excuse me while it keeps loading here. But yeah, 23-1, 17 knockouts. I'm just trying to wait and see who the loss was against. But yeah, it looks good on paper there, Ado. But as we've seen with a lot of the opponents they bring out for the Aussies on these big cards, some of them leave a lot to be desired. But I think Sam Goodman, I'm just trying to see where he's ranked. So this guy's just not loading. Sorry. Stupid bloody thing. Must be the internet here. What is it? Yeah, it says I'm still connected. But anyway, yeah, I'll have to have a look at him on YouTube, Ado, but doesn't look too bad record-wise. As I said, 23-1, 17 knockouts. So will be, I've got a feeling he'll be just a solid South American guy. He'll give Sam Goodman 10 good rounds or 12 or whatever it's going to be, and that's probably about it. Won't win many rounds, but he'll probably be there at the end. He'll keep coming. Sam will use him as a punching bag for 10 or 12 rounds, and that will be it. All right, there's his record. So he lost in July last year to Makhmamed, is that how you pronounce that? Makhmamed Shikov, who was 16-0. That was looks like it was in Russia. So he lost a 10-round decision to him, coming off a 6th-round stoppage of Isaac Arias. That was in November. I don't recognise any fighters on his record. I'm just looking at their records. Yeah, yeah. I'll have to have a look at it, but I would imagine he would just be a good, tough, solid opponent who will be not a lot of risk. I'm just trying to see his ranking here. Actually, where is it? So he's ranked number 22 in the world, number 1 in Argentina. So there you go. All right, Harry, I think Zuffa will have a hard time getting recognition maybe in 20 years if they're still around. Well, as I said, Harry, it all comes down to the momentum. If they can't get momentum and just start getting more and more guys over, we might be sitting here in 2 years' time going, geez, okay, they're putting on 12 shows a year. They've got a sprinkling of champions, but that's about it. They're just over there just treading water. So, and I think Dana White would know that. I think for this year, it'll be obviously getting the 200 fighters on board. It'll be trying to maybe put in the groundwork with all the champions out there and try and sweet talk them and obviously throw some money at them. And I reckon next year will be the year where they really try and make the move. I think this year is establishing their model as far as the shows goes. Obviously getting the stable full, maybe bringing a few more, letting a few go, whatever it might be. And then they'll start the process, I reckon, from next year when they really try and build the product, not necessarily the stable this year. So I don't think they're going anywhere for a couple of years, Harry. Well, probably at least 3 years before I think we see some sign of where they're at. What's this Big J talking about? Desley bouncing around in her underwear with some Sheila that falsely accused. Okay, I'll let you talk about that. Naz, I really like Anto Kasachi. It's Anthony Kasache, wasn't it? Won the belt off Joe Cordina. Yeah, that was a really impressive performance, that Naz. And dropped it to fight Warrington for the dollars an hour world champ again. Great fighter. Yeah, very, very good fighter. That the fight with Joe Cordina, I reckon Naz was probably the best I've seen him. But yesterday was a really good performance. I really like The work rate, I really love how busy he is, the way he can switch. One of those really good fighters who, when he switches to southpaw, he doesn't look awkward. You see a lot of fighters will switch just for the hell of it, which I'm totally against, by the way. But they'll switch and they to almost negate themselves. He switches and actually looks pretty good. So, yeah, I'm a fan too, Naz, and I think he will give Emmanuel Navarrete a very, very good fight. J Beebs, how are you there, J Beebs? I can see Dana signing all the champions and paying them to throw their belts into a bin. Riddick poster. Oh, yeah, well, you never know. Although money's money, J Beebs. I reckon it's going to take a lot. I mean, geez, it cost them $15 million to get Conor Benn away from Matchroom. So how much is it going to cost to, I mean, let's throw a name like Usyk or Inoue or one of those types of guys out there. Shakur Stevenson, maybe. A lot of money. If you think, if Conor Benn's worth 15, those guys are worth 30. Probably 35, I reckon. So, not sure you'll want to give that amount of money away, JBs, from the throw their belts in the bin. Would be a big sign, though, wouldn't it, JBs, that if, say, Usyk comes across and throws the belt in the bin and holds up the Zuffa belt, whoa, that'd be worth whatever they're prepared to pay, I suppose. With all due respect to Mike Tyson, I'd always be more excited to meet Bud instead. Best pure boxer since Floyd. I don't care about popularity. Yeah, okay, each to their own. Yeah, well, that shows you're obviously a true blue boxing fan, shadow boxer, not necessarily just a fanboy, I suppose, which a lot of people were with Mike Tyson. That was 2012 when we went to see him. This is before all the circus stuff started, so I think he'd only been out of the sport for 6 or 7 years, whatever it might have been, so it was a big deal. Yeah, Bud, if you're a real true blue, as I said, boxing fan, Bud Crawford would be great. I suppose the question out there, who would you pick out of any boxer to meet current day or even from the past? I'll put it out to you guys. I'm sure it'll take me a while to get to it. But if, let's say Tazzy Brown comes and says, all right, I've got an opportunity to get anyone from the past or present to a function in Melbourne, to the Melbourne Pavilion or wherever they're going to be, who would you pick? I would have, I mean, I've met Vinny Pazienza a few times, so it wouldn't be him. From the past, geez, I reckon Marvelous Marvin Hagler would have been great to meet. Yeah, he would have been fantastic. Yep, Hagler. Just to pick one anyway out of the blue, he would have been awesome. Mutsy, I'd have Huni higher on your pound for pound list. Yeah, no, that's cool, mate. Where did I have him at number 8? Yeah, you could make the argument that he could be above Kambosos, Andrew Maloney, and maybe Goodman. Not so much Jason, I don't think. The thing is, though, Mutsy, is that Justice Huni, talent-wise, 100% you're right. The issue is he didn't win the fight against Wardley. I know he was well on the way, which is why he's in my top 10 because of that performance. But at the end of the day, he didn't win. He lost. So depends on how you rate your pound for pound. Is it just the best fighter? Is it the resume? Is it a bit of both? Because by resume, you'd have George Kambosos up near the top, wouldn't you? So it's a tough one. And Sam Goodman, you mightn't have as high because he hasn't really got a resume. He hasn't won a world title or anything like that. So, yeah. But as I said, mate, I would have had, if Huni had to beat Wardley, I would have had him at probably number 3 behind. He could have even been number 2, actually, behind just Jaya Pataya, really. That's what I would have done. If he had beaten Wardley and he was well on the way to doing it, I would have had him at number 2, pound for pound, behind Jai. But now I've got him at number 8 because he didn't win. All right, Drew. The worst case scenario for Opatai is that he sits on the sidelines for 3 years without meaningful fights due to the Zuffa and sanctioning body wars. I hope this doesn't happen, but it's possible. It's possible, Drew, but I don't think it'll happen, mate. I think the absolute worst case scenario for Jai, well, I don't count that as one of them. I just don't think he would do it. Would be he would have to give up the IBF belt and let go of his dream of being the undisputed cruiserweight title. I think that's his worst case scenario. He's not going to sit on the sidelines, mate. Not at all. So I think that is the worst case scenario, is that unfortunately they say, mate, you've got to give up the IBF belt. But don't worry, Uncle Dana will say, or Uncle Fest, or whatever he's being called these days, he will be saying, Jai, don't worry about it, mate, because in 20 years' time, when you're worth $20 million, you won't be too stressed about not having all the belts. Because let's face it, a lot of the all-time greats like the Jeff Fenix and Mike Tysons and these types of guys all say, mate, belts are they're just trophies. When you're in the game, they mean everything. It's all about the belts. But once the smoke is cleared and after everyone's stopped cheering your name and all that sort of stuff, it comes down to what's more important and what's more sustainable, I suppose. A lot of them just throw the belts in the closet and they mean nothing to them. It's all about legacy and all that sort of stuff. Now, you might also say that winning the undisputed belts are the legacy. I don't think so. I think it's more about the opponents. I think when you look at the great fighters in history, you look at the fighters they fought and the results of the fights rather than what belt was on the line. So I think it'd be hard for Jai to swallow, but I think, as I said, in 20 years' time, when he's worth $20 million, I don't think it'd be too much of a concern for him. All right. What's that, Hearns? Props to you for your honesty. Okay, thanks, mate. Analysis of Tim Tszyu. Let's be honest, Mendoza lost every round when he fought Boachok. Harris is now fighting D-class fighters. Was washed. Yep. Well, just telling it the way it is, Hearns. And look, I'm not trying to be derogatory towards Tim or anything like that. I'm just calling it the way it is. And unfortunately, when he got on that bit of a run, when he beat Mendoza and Harrison, the Australian media was to blame for it. They got so behind him and whipped everyone up into a frenzy about these guys. And look, to be fair, Mendoza was a credible opponent based on the Fundora win. But again, if you look at the actual fight, he was getting soundly beaten in that fight. So again, that's why it's a 12-round fight, because it's 12 rounds and doesn't matter what happens in the 6 or 7 rounds before. Matters what happens in the 7th, 8th round, whatever it might be. I get that. But yeah, he hasn't really done, or didn't really do a lot before, and hasn't done anything since. So, and you're right against Boachok. So, look, it's no big drama. It wasn't Tim's fault. It's not a massive thing. The Australian public needed a hero. It was Tim, and unfortunately for Tim, he couldn't measure up. But there's still time. There's still plenty of time for him to be that fighter that we all want him to be. All right, Adam, how are you there, mate? I've got Thurman beating. Is that Dalsum from Street Fighter? His character is. I'm assuming he's tall and lanky, is he? Thurman is $3.60 to win. Experience will be the key factor for this fight. He will know how to beat him. Won't be like Tim. I give him a massive chance too, Adam. The only thing I'm looking at is what Thurman shows up and what game plan he can implement. So I would think he'd be definitely looking at the Mendoza type of thing, or the game plan. Not that, or Thurman's going to go in there with a designated plan. I've just got a feeling that, I'm not going to say that Mendoza got lucky, but I think he just was able to hang in there and then get his opportunity, and he nailed Thurman with Fundora with a couple of beautiful punches and just took his chance at the time. Thurman, on the other hand, will be going there with a direct game plan, and I would think it would be just to not trade with Thurman. I keep calling him Thurman. Thurman to not trade with Fundora, because that gets you in a lot of trouble with seeing him just beat down a lot of fighters, but also maybe not engage too much. I wouldn't be surprised if he just keeps at a little bit of distance, tries to go in and out pretty quick, tries to tempt Fundora to lead and then come back and then try and counter him. And that's a long way in, isn't it, past those arms. So I just got a feeling he'll try the smart way about it. He won't be like Tim, who'll just try and out-bomb him and come forward. I think you're going to see a very smart Thurman. Now, if he can do that and pick his moment, I reckon he could almost stop Fundora. I really do. But it's easier said than done. It really is. I'm still going to go, even though I think Thurman's a very, very smart fighter and he can do it, I'm still going to stick with Fundora just because Thurman's been just so inactive. I mean, what's it been? He's had that one fight with Brock Jarvis in, 5 years, whatever it's been? I'll just see if it will quickly bring up his last few years. I think I looked it up a while ago. I think it was like 3 fights in 6 or 7 years or something. So he fought, a year ago he fought Brock. It's been, actually it was March the 12th. So it's been over a year. How quick has that gone since he beat Brock Jarvis? Before that, it was 3 years with the Mario Barrios win. And before that, it was 2.5 years since the Manny Pacquiao fight. So in what's it been? 6.5 years, he's had 2 fights. This will be his 3rd fight in 6.5 years. Wow, that is crazy. And Brock, I don't think he hasn't fought since, or he has, hasn't he? He had that one fight with Sam Beck. Yep, that's for sure. That's right. So that was in August last year. And there are rumours, by the way, guys, that Brock Jarvis could be the next opponent for Nikita Tszyu. We'll see. Just a couple of whispers. I haven't heard anything definitive, just some whispers. So who knows? We'll see. Andy, I said that for a while. Stopped waiting on Boots versus Virgil, to be honest. Sorry, I missed that comment there. Sorry, guys. All right, Drew, which of these fights that didn't happen would you have liked to have seen most? 1 being the most, 3 the least. Lewis, Bowe, Leonard Pryor. Sorry, I just got my tracksuits pants there. Fraser versus Norton. 3 the least, I would say. Fraser Norton would have been a good fight, but not a great fight, I don't think. The next 2, I would say 2 Lewis Bowe, 1 Leonard Pryor would be the fight I would like to have seen or love to have seen. So yeah, so 1 Leonard Pryor, 2 Lewis Bowe, 3 Fraser Norton. All right. Share the blame, says Andy. Just wondering if Jai's stuck in that UFC style contract now where he can't leave unless loses or quits the sport. We'll see. Yeah, no, they're not going to let him out of the contract, Andy. I wouldn't have thought. Although, if I don't know, maybe if it says in the contract somewhere that it's all subject to him fighting for proper sanctioned belts, maybe he could say, well, you've breached the contract. The IBF haven't sanctioned the fight and won't going forward. The other sanctioning bodies have said they won't sanction it either, so he's breached a contract. That might be the only way. So and maybe, I don't know how it works with the laws over there, maybe a verbal agreement is good enough. I don't know. But if there is an agreement in place that says that Jai Pattaya will be able to fight for the world title, the IBF belt, then he'd have a case. Although, could also say in there that it's subject to what the sanctioning bodies say. So it might say in the contract that Zuffa is open to working with the sanctioning bodies, but if the sanctioning bodies don't recognise it, well, it's not Zuffa's problem. I know there's lots of things, but you never know, Andy. But I think knowing Dana White and the UFC, they'd be pretty, or Zuffa, they'd be pretty watertight, you'd think. All right, Andy says he would have loved to see Lennox versus Bowe. Yeah, it would have been a great fight, but just not as good as Leonard and Pryor, if you ask me. Oh, okay. What's this? Najee Lopez, Manuel Galejos over the weekend was a fight. Yeah, I'm going to have to go back and watch it now. I just totally forgot about it. All right, Harry, talking about the Saudi Turkey money being Saudi government money, it's a shame Albo isn't into boxing. He throws government money around like it's water in the wet season. Certainly does, Harry. Yes. Yeah, don't get me started on the government, mate. They throw money at all sorts of things that have, in my opinion, have really no relevance. They send all our resources off overseas and then buy them back. It doesn't make sense to me, but anyway. And in this instance here, yeah, maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we need to get Albo involved in boxing. And maybe one of us can, maybe I'll put my hand up to be the Turkey LL Sheikh of Australian boxing. We'll bring it all over here and we'll promise that it's going to help tourism and all that sort of stuff. Wouldn't it be great to have just unlimited funds to put on fight nights? Be pretty good. Joe, love your show and insight, bro, but disagree on the OnlyFans stuff. Yeah, and that's cool, Joe. It's not for everyone. Mate. Not to say I'm in it. I've never seen it. I'm not on it or follow anyone. But sometimes some of the girls have got to do what they've got to do. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. But I understand that, hey, they've got to do what they've got to do, mate. So I get it. But I don't like it. I just said I understand why they do it. All right, Drew, I have Lewis on points or late stoppage in that fight against Bowe. His reach and how he used his jab would be the difference for me. The only times Lewis lost was when he underestimated lesser guys. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I didn't actually mention who I thought would win. I think Leonard would have beaten Pryor. I think Lewis would have beaten Bowe. And I think, who was the other one? Who was the other one there? Sorry, guys. Fraser Norton. I think Fraser would have beaten Norton. Would have been a great fight, though. Would have been a fantastic fight. I think, yeah, the only times Lewis lost when he underestimated lesser guys. Yeah, no, you're right. And I think against Bowe, style-wise, Drew, I think Lewis being the big stand-up guy with a good jab and good power, good stamina as well, I think he would have broken Bowe down. I think he could have even stopped Bowe late, I reckon. maybe 9 or 10 rounds. I reckon he could have got him out of there. All right, Vincent, Benavides Senior and Junior are taking the piss following the Zerdo and Billum Smith ducking Jai Patai instructions to the letter. Yeah, well, I said it last week on one of the videos, Vincent. I said that, for always Benavides Senior and Junior talking tough, they continue to sort of downplay Jai Patai. I would have thought if Benavides is the guy that keeps telling us that he is, he would have been looking at Jai, especially now that he's getting more and more well-known and he's getting dominant performances, dominant wins. He'd be looking at him saying, this is a challenge that I need. After Zerdo, if I can't get Beterbiev or Bivol for whatever reason, I understand him wanting to go down and fight, say, Bivol. I get that. But if Bivol's not available, I would have thought he would have been looking at Jai Patai saying, this is the guy that I need. This is the guy that's going to take me to the level that I want to get to. He's got a good following now. He's a good fighter. He's got a world title belt for now anyway. But they always continue to pour water on any conversation that comes up about Jai Patai. They always just play him down. So, yeah, I'm with you, Vincent. I wouldn't say he's at Zerdo or Billum Smith levels, but I think if it really came down to it, I don't think he'd have a problem fighting Jai. I just wonder why they talk up, they talk up some guys and at the same time they talk down Jai. Roscoe, Noonan Boy's coverage was epic for Jai Patai. Yeah, he's a good man, Noonan Boy, over there on the ground, over there in Las Vegas. Does a great job, Noonan Boy, and a very, I was going to say unheralded guy, but he's very well known over here in Aussie boxing circles, of course, but puts his money where his mouth is and gets over there and gets on. He doesn't do what some do and only go to Tim Tszyu fights or Nikita Tszyu fights. He gets over there and covers our guys when they go over there as well. So, and he's a good man, Noonan Boy, that's for sure. Boxing Rock Nation says, does Noonan live there? He's always on the ground in the USA. Well, a little bit of a secret there, Box Nation, is that he spends a lot of time over there, but he's mainly in Australia, but he has got people on the ground all over the place. So he'll have sort of people that are over there, and he was obviously there for the Jai fight because you would have seen him actually interviewing people, but sometimes he'll have people on the ground over there that will send him photos, send him vision, maybe do some interviews and all that sort of stuff as well. So, and as I said, he's a very, very good man, Noonan Boy. Yeah, and I agree with that, Roscoe. He's Australia's #1 digital reporter. Yeah, no, I think so. Maybe not necessarily always getting the microphones in people's faces, but as far as the content he delivers and the insight that he gets and the real inside information that he's told me that no one else has been able to tell me, he knows his stuff, and he's a bit of a player over there. When I was in Oklahoma, was it 3 years ago, for George Kambosos' fight with Maxie Hughes, and obviously there wasn't much happening as far as other Aussies over there. I think it was myself and Noonan. Well, that was probably about it. But got me in with George's camp, and everyone with top rank over there all went out of the way to talk to Noonan Boy, and Nick, I should call him, Nick Noonan, went out of his way, had a bit of clout, got me a press pass, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, he has got a bit of pull over there, Roscoe, and he knows his stuff, that's for sure. All right, Daniel, I might be in the minority here, but I can't believe these boxers are even considering signing with Zuffa and Dana White. Let's not forget the bloke flogged his wife. Yeah, well, I'd hate to have my name associated with someone like that. Yeah, no, it's a good call, Daniel. Yeah, that has been sort of swept under the rug a bit, hasn't it? The incident with his wife, I think it was. Yeah. Look, if I was in the position of the guys over there, initially I'd be very, very weary. So let's just say I had the WBC 147-pound title. If I was Ryan Garcia, if I was in his position and had that belt and I was approached by Zuffa, at this moment, without seeing the checkbook, I would say, no, I'm not interested. I would want to see it grow. I'd want to wait and see other people come on board. I'd like to see, well, what Jai didn't see, and that's how they work in with the sanctioning bodies, how the whole thing works, and whether it is going to work with them working in, and whether Dana keeps his word as far as allowing his champions to fight for the belts. Also, will the sanctioning bodies continue to sanction fights, which they said, obviously, by the IBF's actions last week, it might be a no. I'd be looking at all that sort of things that were happening. On the flip side, if I was in Conor Benn's position, and they come to me and say, hey, Lynden, here's a check for $15 million to come and sign this, I'd be looking at doing the same thing that Conor Benn did. And yes, I did lay the boots into Conor Benn for what he did, but it wasn't what he did. It was the way he went about it. And I know Eddie Hearn's no angel, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure this has gone on a lot, but to not even sort of pick up the phone or anything with Eddie and at least explain himself, I'd be... So let's say I was with Eddie Hearn and I had a $15 million offer. I'd go to Eddie and say, Eddie, this is the story. I'm just putting it out there for you. And he said, I can't match it. Then I would go for $15 million. That is life-defining money. And yeah, I would definitely do it. But again, I would definitely pick up the phone and have a chat to Eddie Hearn or whoever was my promoter at the time. All right. Sorry about playing with this microphone here, guys. It just continues to go another way. It gets misaligned a bit. All right. Daniel, I guess people's moral compass vanishes when dollars is involved. Yeah, mate. And I'm sure, I know I would, and I'm sure you'd be the same, that if you're in the situation where you do get offered that kind of money, you just go, mate. You got to look after yourself again, but it's just the way you go about it. Callum Peters is 20-1 on to beat Delio. I'm surprised it's not 100-1 there, Glenn. Put your house on it, mate. Callum Peters is not losing anytime soon, I can tell you. Oh, hang on. How does that work? Put a buck on it, win 5 cents. Yeah. I think at that money you'd put on probably a couple of $100, wouldn't you? All right, what do we got here? Ryan. It'll be great to see War win over the Bronze Bomber. It would be a great show to see them retire and go fishing together. Go the Blues. Yeah, go the Blues, mate. Don't get me started on them. I can't believe everyone's so upset with a win. Imagine what it's going to be like if we lose another game. Not impressive at all, mate. But I'd love to see Chisora beat the Bronze Bomber, Ryan. I think it'd be good for boxing. I've never been a fan of Wilder. I don't know. I just can't take to Deontay Wilder. It's one thing to be a limited type of fighter and to squeeze everything out of yourself, which is what he's done, and I admire him for that. 10 title defenses, all the rest of it, but just the way he just goes about it with his, the war cry, and he talks like he's he's the same sort of category as a George Foreman or Joe Fraser. Yeah, I don't know. I think you just got to know your place. Anyway, I won't get started on that, but I'd like to see War Chisora win as well there, Ryan. Would you say they're great to see them retire and go fishing together? The Blues, yeah, probably would be, wouldn't it? They probably will. I mean, someone like Chisora you'd think he probably would go fishing with someone like Chisora with Wilder, wouldn't he? He seems that type of guy. And the Blues, yes, we'll see how they go this week, mate. We will see. What else? There's no comments in there at the moment. I'm just going to bring up. Let's see if anything's happened in the last sort of 24 hours we can talk about here. Frank Warren says Hamza Shiraz fight will be announced soon. Not sure who he's going to fight. What's it say here? It doesn't say. It just said it'll be announced very soon. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. What else we got out? Nino Donaire getting stopped. What else we got there? Devin Haney calls for VADA testing as Ryan Garcia feud heats up. Geez, no shit, it's heating up. They've only been arch enemies for about 5 years, but anyway, or longer if you include the amateurs. Arnold Barboza says welterweight move feels overdue after Sims win. Yeah. Anthony Kashashe eyes Emmanuel Navarrete after title win. Yep, that'll be a great fight. Ryan Garcia rules out Keyshawn Davis fight. That'd be a ripper fight too. All right, there's a couple of things there. What else we got? Glenn, welcome to the show there, mate. What do you got there? Evening all. I thought Viviana Ruiz put up a good fight against a beast in Fundora. I did too, Glenn. I thought she was really good. I mean, again, I sort of covered this in my video this morning, but I thought she did better against Fundora than a lot of other fighters have done. Just by the way Ben Slaver obviously done his homework. There was lots of head movement. You can see what the game plan is. I mean, it's not rocket science at the end of the day, I suppose. It's constant movement forward. It's moving the heads, trying to attack from outside the shoulders. The problem is that Fundora is just so slick and so aware of what her opponent's going to do. I mean, she's got so so much time to assess what her opponent's doing because it's so far away. So by the time they actually change position and try and maybe change direction coming in, she's already 2 steps ahead of him. And she'll just do a little pivot off to the side, or she catches him with an uppercut or something coming in. Just a fantastic fighter. I think she's a better fighter than her brother, to be honest. I think she's more pinpoint with her punches. I think she's a little slicker, if that's the word. Is that a word? Slicker, more slick than Sebastian, but very, very similar styles. And she just breaks her opponents down, much like Sebastian does as well. But I think the other thing is, I think she's got a bit more of a killer instinct in her than Sebastian as well. You see, when she got Viviana hurt, she's just all over it, but not just wailing away wildly. She was just really pinpoint and precise with the punches. She's a really good fighter. And Viviana Ruiz, as I said, put up a really good fight, just out of her depth, that's all. And there's nothing wrong with that. All right. Who's that? Stojanov. Hi, I'm from Zoo Fight Club. Do you think Tim will have a good chance on his fight? Yes, mate. I hope I pronounced your name right there. Is it Stojanov? We'll call you. Good gym up there too there, mate. I have been there before. Yes, mate. More than a little, what do you say there? A good chance? Yeah, a little bit better than a good chance, mate. I think you'd almost put your house on it. Dennis Nerja, his opponent. 20-0, 9 knockouts, but he's been brought in as the opponent, mate. So I reckon Tim will have a very, very good win. So Tim will best the next opponent, but I think Spence smokes him. Yeah, I'm still up in the air, Glenn. I would have liked to have seen Spence have a tune-up fight first, so we could just sort of see what we're getting. Because I mean, the last fight with Terence Crawford was so one-way traffic. Spence looked absolutely washed. He looked just done right from the word go. Now, I know this is at 154, not 147, or is it? They might even make it at 160, or maybe even a catch weight. I'm not sure, because it's even 7 pounds for Spence. I reckon to be a fair bit to bring him down from where he is at the moment. I think 154 might still be even a little bit of a stretch, so they might make it at 156, 157. Who knows? But I'd like to see a little bit of Spence beforehand, mate. I mean, you know what we're going to get with Tim because he has fought regularly. But Spence, I don't know, mate. Based on the Crawford fight, I'd have to be backing Tim. The Spence before that fight, yep, okay, I'd probably agree and say he'd beat Tim. But I'm going to say the Spence I saw against Crawford, I'd give Tim a good shot. And we haven't seen Tim fight this Nerja yet, and he might have worked on a lot of stuff and looked sensational. So either way, massive fight, great opportunity for Tim. And I think it's a great opportunity or great fight for both guys. I think it's a good fight for Spence as well. And we all know it's a great fight for Tim. Drew, Tim and Spence is the ultimate crossroads fight because both men, for different reasons, think they should beat the other guy or retire. Yeah, no, it is. It's a great fight for both guys, Drew, because Tim wants that sort of legacy name on his belt, I suppose. If he beats Spence, he'll be right in line for a world title shot after that. Spence, on the other hand, obviously sees Tim as a very, very beatable guy, sees him as still a big name in the division, and probably sees him as the easiest way back. So I think it's a really good fight for both guys, and whoever wins, you would think, will get a world title shot after this, no doubt. It'll be either, I'll say I saw Cully, you'd probably think. Although Spence is a PBC fighter, isn't he, or was, so maybe he might be in line to fight Fundora. Don't forget, they were supposed to fight, was it after Fundora beat Tim the first time? So what's that, 2 years ago they were going to fight. And so that's how long it's been going. You remember when Spence got into the ring after Fundora beat Tim, and they posed for photos and all this sort of stuff. They went back and forth on social media and everything. And here we are 2 years later, and Spence still hasn't even had a fight yet. Crazy. But yeah, a great fight for both guys there, Drew. All right, Glenn. I know Viv, she trained at our gym. She's so tiny. Yep, the tactics were good, but Fundora has some excellent skills. Yep, the height gives her time. Yeah, that's for sure. Fundora, as I said, just so sleek, good on her feet. She changes angles really well. She just anticipates what her opponent's going to do, again, because of the distance away. And I said this morning, what's great about both Fundoras, Gabriella and Sebastian, is that they stand in center ring, which makes it twice as hard. I mean, late in the fight, it can probably go against them, as what happened with Mendoza when Fundora stood there and was fatigued and couldn't move and ended up getting dropped. But normally when they're in center ring and the work rate is so high, they're always just popping out the jab and following it with the left hand or the right uppercut or right hook or whatever it might be. They're always busy, but they're right in front of you. So you're on the outside of the ring trying to move your head to get inside, and they're just coming at you, with those long arms. So it's a great strategy they use by being the aggressor. Yes, it can come with risk because you've got the Mendozas of the world who might just lay one on you. But overall, I think the way they've been taught and the way they fight really adds to how good they are. Because if they just sort of got on their bikes and boxed and moved, I think they'd be very beatable. But the way they fight now, I mean, geez, especially Gabriela Fondora, who, I mean, how many knockouts do you see at that weight? Not many. I mean, she's had a few, but not many apart from her. They're always sort of distance fights, so it's not like she's going to get tagged. Sebastian's a different story, of course, with what happened to Mendoza, but just the way they both fight really adds to how effective they are. By all accounts, she's a lovely young girl too, Glenn. I've spoken to Maloney's about her, a train up there as well, and they say, yeah, she's really, I'm going to say a young lady. She's not young this year. She's 43, but Naz agreed Sweet Poison will be more dominant than Towering Inferno. That's right. It's a good name, Sweet Poison. And the thing is, though, Naz, I've actually met, we'll call her Sweet Poison, Gabriela. Where we were in Vegas or somewhere, and she's only tiny. She's taller than me. I'm only 5'8". She's 5'9". And so she's an inch taller, which was a little bit odd, but she's so slender. I mean, what is she? Is she 112, I think it was? Hang on, let's just have a quick look. Where is it? I'm pretty, because she was talking about going down. Gabriela Fondora. I'm pretty sure she's 112, but maybe I've got, or 115, is it? Sweet Poison. What is she? 18-0. Wow. So she fought at 112. So she's talking about going down to 108. Now, she only weighed 110 3/4 pounds, which is, I'm just going to get the calculator out. It's not a lot of weight. Where is it? 110.75 divided by 2.2. 50, just over 50 kilos. Geez, so there's not much of her at all. So, but yeah, when you meet her, she's such a, really delicate sort of thing. Like, she's so skinny and slight and fragile almost. But geez, you put a pair of gloves on her and she'll carve you up. Glenn, bad news about Tommy Hearns. Dementia's totally set in, and his son looks after his affairs now. Yeah, I spoke about this yesterday, I think, Glenn, on Walking Boxing about Tommy Hearns. If you didn't know, he has got the early signs of dementia. He's not totally gone yet, but it's showing some bad signs, and he has copped a lot of punishment over the journey, Tommy Hearns. Been knocked out numerous times, and not just knocked out, but copped a lot of punishment. So I think it was his daughter or sister or someone sort of kidnapped him. They didn't know where he was, and now he's got his son Ronald looking after him. Lost his house to foreclosure. Just so tragic there, Glenn. But let's hope that now the family have sort of sorted it out. I think the judge has given Ronald, his son, custody of Tommy Hearns. Let's hope there's a bit of a GoFundMe or something for him, and they can get his house back or get him some care or something like that. Some full-time carer or a full-time carer when he's living with Ronald, because he deserves so much better, Tommy Hearns. And unfortunately, it just happens way too much against, with these type of guys from the past. And I think I also said out of all the four kings, he took the most punishment out of all of them. So, and he showed signs of this type of illness many years ago. Even when he was still fighting, I thought he could really start to hear his speech slur. So, let's hope that he gets some money behind him, Glenn, and some full-time care. All right, Drew. Who do you think the heir apparent heavyweight champion of champions will be after Usyk retires? My eventual prediction is Otama. Yes, I would probably say the same there, Drew. Have a quick look. I can't see anyone beating him, mate. I really can't. So Richard Torres could be a real potential big fight, I think. Otama versus Torres. I know he's got a long way to go, Torres. But I'm looking at, I wouldn't put in, I was going to say, so Josh will be gone, Fury will be gone, Usyk will be gone, Dubois will be gone. Yeah, I can't see anyone that's going to come close. The only one I can see maybe as a potential big fight would maybe be Richard Torres Jr., but that's about it. Or Justice Huni or Jai Pataya. We'll see. Glenn, take your point on Spence, but God, I found Tim underwhelming. He's just not there. Well, I said before, Glenn, that was talking about Tim, and I did say that based on his last fight, not convinced at all or impressed at all. And that's why I think they want another fight under his belt just to work on a few things. And I did say that while I think the first fight with Velasquez was just about getting through and getting 10 rounds under the belt and just getting a win, I think this fight will be about putting the foot down and getting Nurja out of there and getting a stoppage before he fights Spence. I think that's what they're going to aim for, is to get that for a confidence sort of booster. I think they're going to want a stoppage of Nurja. Still with Glenn, if Terry Ramona actually gets some fights happening, here's a shot. What the hell are they doing with his career? And actually didn't mention Terry Ramona as far as the heir apparent. Terramona, throw him in the mix as well. Could we have Opataya, Huni, and Terramona, the big three Pacific Islander Aussies that might be out there in the big sort of 5 or 6 in the division? And what would happen if they fought each other? Wow, can you imagine any of those fights? Jai versus, would Jai and Justice fight? They're from the same camp, I'm not so sure. But imagine like even Justice Huni versus Terramona. I mean, that's the fight for me. Out of all the three, I'd probably prefer to see that. Huni and Terramona, two big guys. I'm sure they've done a lot of rounds together. That'd be worth paying for. Let just Jai go off and fight Usyk first. Sorry, did I answer your question there? What the hell are they doing with his career? Yeah, well, the next fight should at least get him some rounds there, Glenn. We went through his record before, 19 and 12. Fought some good guys, but has been stopped 6 out of 12 times, 6 times in his 12 defeats. So let's hope he at least gets some rounds, mate, because so far I think he's fought an average of, well, he's had, was it 12 wins or something? And I think 9 or 10 of them have been in the first round. So just a waste of time, really. Glenn, both the Fundoras have excellent rear uppercuts, essential for tall, rangy fighters. Yeah, quick and hard, Glenn, and they both throw them really well and very well timed. Drew, I really worry about the lack of head movement from Tim. It seemed to have improved a little bit, but it still remains a weakness. Well, he either fixes it, Drew, or we're having the same conversation what we were after his last fight with Fundora, mate, and Bakram Murtazaliev. If he doesn't move his head, it's only a matter of time, unfortunately. But is he too far gone to do that and make the adjustments? I don't know. But unless he does, yes, I just got a feeling that it's not going to end well for him, mate. But we'll see. Glenn, not all good fighters have head movement. Footwork and guard can compensate for that. Yeah, but the problem is, though, Glenn, Tim's footwork, I think, is only average, and his guard is only average as well, his defense. So I think, we have seen, Canelo's not really big on the head movement, is he? But he has got great footwork if you watch it, with his little angles he does, and very, very good defense. He gets away with it. Tim can be very loose with his defense, and footwork can be shoddy there, Glenn. So that's the difference, I reckon, which is why he needs head movement. So Drew agrees, you're correct, but with Tim, he was consistently getting tagged with a stationary head. And the big thing too, Drew and Glenn, is what I see with Tim is that it's not necessarily sometimes the head movement side to side. It's when he pulls out. He pulls out in a straight line. And that's what was his undoing against Fundora and Murtazaliev, because with Fundora with those long arms, he just keeps throwing the long range punches. So what Tim was doing, he was coming in straight ahead, but he was also backing out in a straight line. And it's just a target for Sebastian Fundora. And I would have been coming in from outside the shoulders, but when exiting, I would have been going around the sides, or better yet, stay inside. But what he was doing is he'd go in and punch, and he'd pull out in a straight line and getting tagged every single time. Murtazaliev, that was a little bit different, I suppose. Not a lot of head movement, but more so it's when he was hooking, he wasn't bending his knees. It was standing straight up, and Murtazaliev just caught him with a left hook like 2 or 3 times. So never, when he was going to the body a lot, he wasn't bending the knees and was just an upright target, and that's all she wrote. So, Glenn, footwork and a good guard can cover that. Yeah, yes, it can, but that's what I was saying, Glenn. Tim hasn't got great footwork and not a good guard. So, yeah, Drew says Tim isn't known for his footwork and his guard hasn't been Fort Knox. Yep, just what I was saying there, mate. Ashley, how are you? Ashley, what do you got there? He's like a kickboxer. Yeah, a little bit. Fights on the back foot a little bit. Yeah, chin up in the air and goes sort of in and out in a straight line. And that's as I said, that was what caused his downfall, I think, especially against Fundora. The fact that he's going in and then coming out in a straight line, and Fundora was just waiting for him and just hitting him with uppercuts and straight left hands all night long. So, all right, last one. We've got a minute to go. Asbot, how are you there, mate? To be honest, I wouldn't be wouldn't be disappointed if the Spence fight didn't come off and Tim fought another mid-range fight. I just don't want to see Tim come for a big fight without being fully prepared. Yeah, it's not like I'm over the moon about it, Asbot. I'm hoping he gets his opportunity and gets the win. But I mean, geez, at 154, there's so many guys he could fight. So, but Spence is the guy. I mean, Thurman would have been good. Is it a good thing or bad thing they didn't fight 2 years ago? Be interesting to get everyone's thoughts on that. Either way, he lost the belts, didn't he? So probably, who knows. But I think the Spence fight, I think it's a good fight for both guys. But I'm with you, but I'm not totally sold on it. But I think if it does come off and it happens, then happy days. I think I did say that I spoke to Mike Altamura, and they were a little bit concerned that Spence wanted to fight in June. Then it was put back to July. Now they're even talking about August. So does that mean that he's not where he wants to be or where he needs to be at to fight Tim, which is why they're putting the fights back, which is probably another reason why Tim's decided to get a fight in pretty quick. So we will see. And Glenn says, yeah, Canelo sucks. Exactly. All right, guys, that's going to do it for tonight. Thanks for your comments at the end there. Ashley, what do you got there, mate? Leans back. The old saying is one step back and change angle, mate. 100%. The worst thing you can do is pull out with your head up in the air in a straight line, mate. You see a lot of people either get hit with that straight left, or just ask Donald Curry. Go watch his fight against Mike McCallum when he pulled out in the straight line and got knocked out with a left hook. Perfect example. So anyway, all good. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Thanks to everyone that tuned in. Make sure you catch Walking Boxing every morning. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next week on Talking Boxing. Thanks, guys.